on Simo and Goss for breakfast. Coach's Call.
This is where the coach, Adam Simpson, dissects the games in a brief overview. And let's go all the way back to the Thursday night fixture. And it was the Bombers with their win over Port Adelaide. This coaching situation.
It's worrying.
It's a worry. It is a worry. It was a 12-point win.
It was. It wasn't a pretty game, was it? Sometimes Marvel just gives you those types of games. But Essendon, 2 out of 3 weeks, they've had plus 29 contested possessions, so they'd be pleased with that. And what's alarming for Port is their DNA used to be get it in the front half and lock it in. They had 12 forward half turnovers, and you need to get into the 20s. So we won't spend too much time on this game. But, yeah, I thought the alarm bell this morning might have been Port.
Yeah, it's a bit of a concern right there, and see where they're going to end up, Port Adelaide. 12-11-83, the Bulldogs to beat Carlton 11-9-75, so the Blues have had a horror start. And the Dogs, we're going to see them live here next weekend against Fremantle.
Yeah, I spoke about this a little bit over the weekend, how Bevo's got the belief back in his side, and he does it through storytelling and relationships and connections and emotion, and I feel like that doesn't work all the time. It's not as consistent as just the stoic method process. So you're going to have your ups and downs with that system. But when you get it right, that's when you can win premierships. I'm not saying they're going to do that just yet, but he's got them believing in the system, and regardless of injuries, they're finding a way for for all 3 weeks, really. I mean, they could have won the Collingwood game. So pleasing from his point of view, and Vossi's got some work to do because the effort's there. Though they're having a go, Carlton. They're fading away in the second halves. And,
what is that? What's the fade out?
I think it's just so combative, the style of play. It's hard to sustain for 4 quarters, let alone a full season. So it's just, and they're sort of leaving too much up to too few. So it feels like there's a breaking point, and if you can get Carlton on the outside, they're a little bit vulnerable. It's a pretty close game, so they're still paying the price for that round 1 performance, to be honest. So, yeah, let's see how they go next few weeks. But, yeah, they kicked 6 goals from the back half, Carlton, whereas they used to be a front half, get it in and get it to the Twin Towers and do your best work there.
Curnow would be better for the run. I thought he was okay. Yep. And Harry Mackay did play in the VFL Intra on the weekend.
Did he?
So, yeah.
Okay, well, that's positive. Yeah. I mean, they need their best players available. That's part of the problem too, isn't it? They just need their best 6 players. The bottom 6 players need to stand up a bit.
The alarm bells are ringing huge at Melbourne. 8-14-62. They were absolutely pantsed by the Suns. 18-12-1-20. Huge for the Suns. So they've come across here and absolutely smashed West Coast. They have a week off. They go down to the MCG where all the big games are won. And let's hear from Simon Goodwin about the way that it played out for their 10-goal loss.
Our contest method around the ball, not only at scrimmage but at stoppage, just isn't where it needs to be right now, and it's something that we need to fix pretty quick. And our execution, our ability to execute with the ball on hand with our fundamentals and skills wasn't to the level.
Minus 16 at clearances, and that has been Melbourne's biggest strength, hasn't it? When you get the Fab Four there, that's what they really rely on. So. Yeah, and we saw the power of Gold Coast when we saw them play West Coast a few weeks ago. Their ability not just to win the ball on the inside, I think they've got the 3 or 4 best runners on the outside, and Rao's part of that now too. He's used to be just an inside bull, but I see him running just as hard as Miller and Anderson now. So along with the rucks, it's probably the best, most balanced midfield in the competition at the moment.
And Flanders comes in. He was, like you mentioned, Flanders on Friday, the inclusion of Flanders back in the lineup, albeit he's got a new hairstyle, but he's come in, he had 25 touches, 6 clearances. He's just touch work around. He's the plus one in that sort of role.
You just hope Gold Coast can win at home now. They know how to win away, and every now and then it flips, the script gets flipped. So good start to them. Melbourne, yeah, look, the culture check they had in the off-season, it's all good and well. What's interesting is how do you rate your culture if you're 0 and 4? Is it connected to your culture? Because it's not, but sometimes it is.
Not wanting for a headline, but you have to ask the question, is the Heat start, when does the Heat go on a coach of expectation? When Carlton are 0 and 3, their fade-outs are a worry. So Michael Voss and everyone thought Carlton would be, I thought Carlton were a contender. Where did you have Carlton?
I had Carlton in my ladder, looking at it now, I can't say, 13th after round 6.
Oh, okay, you're on the page. And Melbourne?
I had Melbourne 5th up to round. So it's a bit early, Goss.
Is it really?
Yeah, and I don't think I'm going to be one to be putting coaches under the pump because I know how that feels. But at the same time, it's all part of your messaging pre-season too about what do we – anything's possible. It's definitely every club needs to believe in that. Reality, what's the balance? Like what do we – the Essendon situation about their list and their development and their build. I think Melbourne's probably looking to the future as much as it's looking for the present. They're trying to get back on.
But they didn't start that way 3 weeks ago, Simo. They started, they thought, as you talked about, the culture, where they dug down on their culture. They have Petrarca have settled his differences. Oliver looks like he's in for a big pre-season. They've still got Max Gorn there. May going down hasn't helped them. I think forward line is a problem still. But I don't think anyone saw a 10-goal loss to Gold Coast at the MCG coming.
I reckon going into that game, I wasn't that surprised. They're red hot, Gold Coast. I was surprised about the week before against North. The youngest list in the competition and conceding 7 goals from the centre bounce. That for me, that last quarter against North Melbourne, I think rattled a few people with where they're at. And the game on the weekend, we'll find out soon enough where Gold Coast really sit. So, yeah, it's a bit early. I think you can turn things around after round 3. But, yeah, there's some warning signs there.
Richmond and St Kilda, it was the Saints easily by 82 points.
Yeah, that second half wasn't up to AFL standard, and our boys know that, and we know that as coaches. We weren't good enough in the box. We lost a bit of spirit in the third quarter and a little bit of scoreboard pressure. And then, we, like I said, that second half wasn't up to standard, and, we've got some work to do.
Look, he's been talking about spirit and energy and fight. That's the messaging that I've been hearing from Ooze from the start of the season. And to acknowledge, don't worry about the scoreboard, I'm looking at spirit, and that's what dropped away in the third quarter. That's a coachable moment that he's projected to his players, and he would have said that no doubt after the game, but the numbers don't lie with it. Inside 50s and time of possession and all those type of things. I mean, the Saints had 9 goals from the front half, and it was just a bit of a demolition, and that's going to happen a little bit with Richmond being so young, and especially at Marvel. Every now and then, if you get a hold of side at Marvel, you can get hurt.
On the flip side, St Kilda 20 goals, 15.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I mean, that's what probably should have happened yesterday. Really, when you when you see the dominance of some people don't like stats. I get that. I'm trying to find the balance. When you produce numbers like yesterday and what St Kilda did, you expect to blow a team away, and that's what the Saints did. So, tip your hat to them.
Jack Sinclair, 689 metres gained, 40 disposals.
Yeah, I mean, I hear the talk about this back half. Well, and they kicked 5. Excuse me, they kicked 5 goals from D50, but they kicked 9 goals from the front half, which that's what you really want. The back half goals are bonus. The front half dominance is what you want.
You and I spoke at the start of the year about wind and the conditions were down.
We did. I was thinking about you.
About
Fortunately, the other day.
What about when we're talking about wind? Hot air.
Yeah.
But it was the game. So it's Hawthorn versus the Giants. The Hawks won by 12 points, 10-16 to 9-10-64.
Yep.
And just the timeline would suggest early doors, 5-7 to 2 points. That was first quarter for the Giants, and then it flipped around on its head. They kicked 6 goals, 8 to 2 points the other day. It was a huge win. That first half threw the whole game out.
Well, so for anyone who doesn't know, pre-season games used to annoy me a little bit because you'd play the most important game before round 1. You'd play it somewhere where it was a 5-goal breeze, which you just don't confront at AFL level unless you're playing Tassie. And, that'd be interesting if that happens when the Tassie team comes in. Is there going to be a roof on that new stadium?
Yes.
There is.
The cricket don't want a roof.
Okay. Why not?
I don't think so. I'm not exactly sure why.
Okay. Yeah, so anyway, having a 5 or 6 goal breeze, that's tactical. That becomes a coaching bit like when it's really, really wet. You need to coach your way through these situations, and it's like, do you play an extra behind the play? Do you control the ball? With anything from a junior level to a senior level with wind, it's the same thing at AFL level. So how do you manage it? And then did it die off a little bit?
Yeah.
It looked like it did a little bit. So, my Hawthorn's third quarter, Will Day, his performance, and they were trying to tag him as well. So great tick for Hawthorn and what they're about at the moment.
And not complete disaster for the Giants either.
No, they showed pretty good fight. they'll be looking to rebound this week against West Coast.
And again, Hogan kicks 4 on his return. He'll be better for the run. Brisbane, well, they were down by 30-odd points. I think 38 points was the max. They were down against Geelong up there in Brisbane, and this was the game that was meant to be played at the start of the year, and it was pretty ordinary conditions. They got home by 9 points. They're just finding a way at the moment, Brisbane.
They are. They're not firing at all. Four cylinders, is that the word?
6 cylinders.
6 cylinders.
You wouldn't know what a 4 cylinders were, what you're driving.
So look, that was a little bit like the Hawthorn game, where it's just the different conditions, but the dominance of Geelong in the second quarter, and then the dominance of Brisbane in the second half. I mean, they had 19 more inside 50s in the end, and really dominated. They're really hard to get the ball off, Brisbane. Geelong only had 12 forward half turnovers, which, once again, numbers don't lie. You just can't get the ball off them. So their ability to transition and make the ground big and change angles, and in the end, the numbers just outweighed with the result there. So, but Geelong, do they panic? They've lost 2 in a row now, but they're close margins. They're 1 and 2, so there's a little bit of concern there with where they're at. But I'm sure they're not too concerned.
Bailey Smith returned. What about that for a game? 25 disposals. He had 11 tackles and 5 clearances.
Yeah, we showed some vision on Fox a few weeks ago about his transition and the way he can get up and back and complement the rest of the mids, but it looked like he was on his own a little bit.
Adelaide beat North Melbourne by 6 goals at home. What do you make of this?
Adelaide are good. They're high scoring, 17 goals, 12, and North are better, but they're still a work in progress. So last week I mentioned you can't hang your hat on kicking 7 goals out of the middle, and that's what North did against Melbourne. They still kicked 4 this week, mind you. It's a pretty good effort. They'd be the number 1 score from centre bounce team, North Melbourne, which is great, but you just can't rely on those numbers. And in the end, the key forwards of Adelaide against the defenders for North was the biggest difference I saw. They just couldn't handle the three-pronged attack, and you just got to get in there if you're Adelaide, and they're looking dangerous. And this is the 6th or 7th year of a rebuild, and I think Nick's had a bit of a bump last year, but they were trending in the right direction. Remember the game when the Sydney hit the post? They didn't recall it, and they missed the finals the year before.
Yep.
Yeah.
Keys on it.
Yeah, I thought they were ready to launch last year, and they had a disappointing season. This year, injuries look good. Everyone's doing their job, and they look like they're not wanting for a lot.
Well, this is Matthew Nicks. I think he's just happy to have got away with that yesterday.
It was a contest. It was a grind. You got to find ways to win. Sometimes it's not always going to be. Some of our best footy in the first 2 rounds, where we weren't doing a lot wrong, especially with the ball in hand. Today was one where we didn't get it right. So there needed to be another way that we found it, and we did that. So, yeah, that's the most pleasing part.
There it is, Matthew Nicks. We'll dissect Fremantle and West Coast after the break. But a round of applause for the best moment or player of the weekend, thanks to Nutramate. Nutramate, get some Nutramate into your furry mate. Mine was for Isaiah Dudley yesterday. I just thought it was a sugar hit. I thought his selection was a bit odd. He came back in. He got launched into the team. He only arrived at around December. Got put on the list, and he goes first game into a derby, and I thought it was all just a bit of a deflection from Justin Longmuir, but he kicked a couple of goals. He got the crowd involved, the Freo faithful that were there. I like the injection.
So you take back your criticism?
Yep.
That's good.
I made an error.
First time. Whoa, Fonzie.
For a shiny coat.
Fonzie says.
And healthy teeth and gums. Get some Nutramate into your furry.
Actually, my dogs are looking good at the moment. We've just sort of kicked off Nutramate in the last couple of weeks, and some healthy looks at both ends.
We'll take a break and come back. Thanks to Nutramate. Well done, Freo, and well done to Isaiah Dudley. We're going to have some fun with him. Quick calls. Let's go to Daryl from Kingsley. Wants to talk about the Derby. Daryl?
Good morning, lads. Was a happy camper, obviously enough from yesterday's game, which was professional enough as what was expected. There was a couple of good passages of players, and I liked Isaiah Dudley in the forward line. The only problem that I had was Patrick Voss willy-nilly high-five on Josh Tracy. So, mate, if Josh Tracy had to be subbed off, would you be a bit apoplectic in the coaching box?
No, but Voss looks like he's pretty happy with a bit of camera time, I noticed yesterday. So, Yeah, we saw it on Fox and thought, geez, if you got subbed out because you got poked in the eye from giving a high five, what do you do? I haven't seen that before, but no, he was fine. He came back on and had a pretty good game in the end, didn't he?
He certainly did. Nice work, Daryl. Let's go to Ben from Bentley. Wants to have a say on Murphy Reid. Ben?
Hello, boys. How are we?
Yeah, well, what do you like to talk about Murphy Reid?
I think yesterday's performance was, to be honest, it looked better than the one in Geelong because it had more beneficial effect to the result. But just watching him live yesterday, he was the best player on the ground by a mile in that third quarter. Just the things he does, like the little flick-ons he does, the little tap-ons he does. He's so composed. It's just what Freo need in that forward half. And he's wearing the famous number 16. He's not very fast, but his mind is way quicker than everyone else's. And the other thing, Goff, the call on Dudley, I was a bit disappointed you didn't say debutant.
We've got that somewhere. We've got
debuting this weekend.
He's debuting. He was debuting. He was debuting as well. Thank you, Benny.
Just on Reid, it sort of shows you when you have your senior players standing up and playing their role and really contributing. Someone like Reid can contribute in his own way, and I'm not sure if he was best on in the third quarter, but just the little things he did to complement the senior players, that's what you want from a first year. You don't want to put too much pressure on the kid, expect 4 goals in 5 minutes and bring the whole team back into play like a Geelong. It's just contribute where you can and keep learning your craft as you go.
I think he's itching to hit the scoreboard again. I think that's 6 minutes. I think he's desperate to try and hit the major opening. Hey, Andrew McWalter had this to say about their performance yesterday, and he's already indicating changes.
Or when we were in offence, we just struggled. So it's sort of a bad combination when you're losing clearance and then stuck in the back half. That's a bit of the theme for us at the moment, unfortunately. So, it's a space we're going to have to improve in pretty quickly. We're going to have to explore some personnel as we did as well. It's a nasty combo when you get beaten at the source and then struggling to move the ball from the back half. So we'll continue to work on it. It's going to be a work in progress. It's not going to be fixed overnight.
Thoughts?
Well, he's right. And tell you what, they've played, I don't know how they do the fixturing, but you got Gold Coast, then you got Brisbane, and then you got Fremantle. So it's been a pretty big audit for the first 3 weeks, and they're missing Elliot Yeo. So, and this issue was the same last year, regardless of the system or style of play. If you can't get your hands on the ball, it's hard to implement what you're trying to do. And if everything's from the back half, it's a challenge. So, pretty early on, they were losing field position and they were trying their best to try and transition. But if you can't win your fair share of clearance, especially against Fremantle, you're going to struggle. And it happened against Gold Coast as well, where just the transition piece in the midfield plus winning the ball, and you just don't want to have to rely on skill in the back half because that's not a strength at the moment. You wouldn't have thought. It's get it in the front half as best we can, and then they can work on their defensive attributes. But it was just too difficult yesterday.
So Hall played waffle and played okay after being dropped for Graham to come back in. Bo Allen was the sub, didn't play at all on the weekend. Hamish Davis was very good on a wing, had 25 playing on the weekend. Gross, there's raps on him and Shanahan. So they've got some go-tos, some kids.
Well, they've got some youth to go to, but that doesn't. I mean, going against Rao, Miller, Anderson, Sarong, Brayshaw, it's different, isn't it? I mean, it's going to be exposure as much as it's going to be competitive. So Richmond are going through the same thing as well at the moment. So, trying not to lose too many players. The Baker comes in the midfield. I think he's made a difference, but it's still a little bit unders in terms of personnel.
No doubt. Rhonda from Baldivis is a West Coast Eagles. We'll just take this quick call before the 7:30 news. Rhonda, Simo's listening.
Hey, Rhonda.
Yeah, okay, guys. Yeah, I was cooked yesterday, so I didn't get to the game. So I heard you on the TV, Simo, and it's really, really good. You did really well. Anyway, that's congrats to Freo. That's the only thing I'll say about them. Simo, Oscar Allen down back. How long do you think we could, if Gover's out, how long do you think that could happen? And what could West Coast do in that way? And who's coming up from in the twos that could take that spot? Thanks very much, guys.
No worries. It's a good question. They'll be talking about that at match committee this week. I mean, if McGovern's out for 4 to 6, Barras is not there. Harry Edwards gets subbed out through form by the sounds of it, so he'll play. They're probably an oversupply of talls in the front half. So unless they've tried this somewhere else with Jack Williams or Archer Reid, I think Oscar might be the one they might have to lean on. And it doesn't matter if he's captain or not. He's played there before in his early career. That's how he cut his teeth as a defender. He's always been a go-to to get behind the play when the game's, because he reads the play well. And he's out of form, so maybe it's a good thing for him to give it a go down there. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't think it's a captain, don't move your captain, all that sort of stuff. I think it's what does the team need, and he'll gladly do it if it means it helps the team and it gets him back in form.
Going to take some news and then we'll come back with a sports update between the lines, what the coaches say and what Simo is saying they're trying to say in a roundabout way. And from Tomo from Bunbury, who's very sharp. Yep, fair to say Patrick Voss has some disproportionate head wobble ratio going on. Loves his own work.
Boy, am I impressed.
Tell you what, he presented up strong yesterday, though. One thing he does do is he presents, and West Coast could do with him, let me tell you right now. But at the moment, he's playing third banana for Fremantle.